yes, and also due to the fact that our camera lady wasn't here at the time, I wasn't able to really film one of our episodes. So, I'm back. And today's films are going to be a little more of the extreme nature type films. Like, there's different classifications of horror films. There's like the mild horror films that a lot of you can actually watch and enjoy. And while they're scary, like somewhat scary, they're really not up to the extreme level. The ones I'm going to be exploring today are a little more extreme or rated R type movies. Some movies that have even been banned because of the fact that the nature of them were so disturbing that a lot of people wouldn't go to the theaters to see them, so they would have maybe a limited amount of play in the theater. So, let's get started. The first movie I'm going to start with, and it's the most infamous title that's been out there. It is the Human Centipede. This Blu-ray set is the complete set of Human Centipede films. And yes, the Human Centipede, for its time, it was made in 2010. The last one, I think, was made in about 2013 or 14. I'm not sure. But anyway, this series was one of the most disturbing type movies that have ever been made. I'm going to show you a little bit of the inside. We have 3 discs. 3 discs covering all 3 films. The first, Human Centipede, which was, for its time, very controversial and directed by Tom Six. And the second one, I would say, was the most disturbing one of them all. The first one, the gore was downplayed. Like, I think it was more of the reputation of the film, and I think it was the fact that the film, when it was first thought of and came out, everybody thought, oh, this is going to be very disturbing. You know, these people are surgically sewn mouth to butt. And this evil scientist, Dr. Hyder, he's the one that actually does the operation. And he was very effectively played by an actor named Dieter Laser. Now, the second film, Human Centipede 2, was actually more gory, I would say, because of the fact that the gore in this movie goes full-blown. While the first movie, it was more suggested, like, sure, you saw the people attached, but you didn't really see anything gory. This one goes all out. Like, there's all sorts of things, like, because the protagonist in this film is a parking lot attendant who is obsessed with the first film. So he, in turn, kidnaps people and knocks them out, and then he surgically, but very crudely, attaches them mouth to butt. And there's everything from squeamish scenes like blood, and then the classic exploding diarrhea scene, which was absolutely horrendous for that type of movie. And in one scene, where one of the ladies I guess she escapes in a car, and she gets, well, I really can't say. You'd have to see the film to find out. But anyway, full-on gore in this one. And there's a colorized version as well as a black and white version in this. Human Centipede 3, which was the third and final film of the trilogy, takes place in a prison. And more or less, it's almost the same type of premise as in 1 and 2. The only difference is there's 500 people, prisoners, all attached surgically, mouth to ass, in the entire thing. And yeah, it's all in all, it's a pretty disturbing series, but very good for the type of people that like to watch these type of movies. And me personally, I enjoy those type of movies. I hated it at the time it first came out. In fact, I even wrote a boycott about it. But after seeing the film, I thought, well, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And so, thus, I actually got to enjoy the film, and I have it in my collection. second movie. I don't really know about this one because honestly, I haven't seen it yet. But Sandman, more or less looks at these collection of filmmakers, and it's more like an insightful thing into snuff filmmaking. And snuff filmmaking is filmmaking that actually is a real event that is filmed, like a murder. If there's a murder, it's an actual event that's filmed, and there's the disturbing nature of the movie itself. But I haven't seen it yet, so I really can't tell a lot about what this movie is. So you probably have to go and look for it at the store and see for yourself. Now, the movie I have here, Wolfcreek. Now, whenever a movie says based on true events, it generally isn't true. It's embellished so that the film's marketability can be improved, so that when it's released in the theaters, people will just clamor in droves and go to see it. And this is an unrated version. It says here, one of the great horror film heavies of the last 25 years, referring to an Australian guy named Mick, who comes across these kids who are backpacking in the Australian outback. And thus he kidnaps them and tortures them beyond belief. But it's supposed to be a pretty good film. It has a very good intense level, so I would definitely see it myself. Wolfcreek. Straw Dogs, this one here, with James Marsden, Kate Bosworth, and Alexander Skarsgård. I don't think I can pronounce the name right, but this is a remake of an earlier film that was made in the 70s with Dustin Hoffman. And at that time, Straw Dogs was actually banned in the country that it was originally made in, which was Britain. It was banned for about 25 to 30 years because of the extreme nature, and there were rapes. And yes, the main heroine gets brutally raped by these guys who was working for her and her husband, and the husband's too timid to do anything about it until the final 15 minutes of the film, I guess, or 15 to 20 minutes of the movie, where he all of a sudden gets brave and he starts shooting at a lot of them. But yeah, this is the remake here. Eden Lake was a movie. Michael Fassbender actually starred in this movie, and it's a very early movie that he did. And basically this girl and her husband go camping, and they run afoul of these hoodlums, or tough people that are living in the woods in this family, and then they get scared, tortured, all this stuff, and disturbed by them, bothered. And yeah, it's sort of like a movie I'm going to be showing in a little bit here called Last House on the Left. It's a British equivalent of it, and this family are very disturbing in the movie, yes. But it's certainly worth a watch. I've been thinking about seeing it sometime this year, and I want to see it before Halloween. Now, before I get to the remake, I'm going to talk about the original Last House on the Left, a movie that Wes Craven, the director of Nightmare on Elm Street, by the way, a movie that my sister Linda May likes. She absolutely loves the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. But Wes Craven and Sean Cunningham, I guess, did this very early film. It's a very gritty film about two girls. They go to a concert and they run afoul of these guys because they're going to this apartment to ask for drugs before a concert. And the people that live in this apartment are actually rapists, and they kidnap and rape the two girls, and it's one of those type of movies. Again, I don't recommend anybody seeing this if they are disturbed in any way by movies like this, because films like this can be very disturbing, and I definitely wouldn't recommend it if you're squeamish in any way. Same as the Human Centipede. A lot of the films that I'm showing here, I wouldn't recommend the average viewer to watch. You'd have to be a real diehard to actually be into movies like this. But Last House on the Left is certainly worth a watch. It has a grittiness like a snuff film and a documentary all rolled into one. And look for Martin Kove, who played Kreese in The Karate Kid. He plays a inept police deputy in this movie, and it was good. I think I didn't mind it myself, but again, if you can't handle movies like this, I suggest you don't watch. Yes, there is a remake of Last House on the Left, which was made not too long ago. In fact, if I remember correctly, it was made around 2008, I believe. And Sarah Paxton is in this one. It's more or less the same type of movie as the original. I think they upped the violence in it a little bit, but it doesn't have the same grittiness that the first one did. Like, sometimes in remakes, they remake it to a point, but at the same time, if they miss the whole tempo of the film. Like, the whole tempo is just missing in the first film. That was in the first film, and it's just not the same sometimes when you do a remake, and I always believe if it's not broke, don't fix it. So this is the remake here of Last House on the Left, unrated, and there are two versions, the unrated and the original theatrical cut. So you get to pick which one you want to see. Then we have the movie Hostel, Eli Roth's masterpiece. These two guys that are two guys here, they're in Europe, and they go to this hostel, and more or less what it is these rich people are paying to see these people tortured and killed. That's the premise of the entire film. And even though it says Quentin Tarantino presents, I think he had some small thing to do in the production. But yeah, this movie, I wouldn't say is so much scary as it is more of a almost psychological, because it preys on your mind a bit. But Hostel, yes, is extremely violent. Again, it's extreme, and torture, because torture is the main theme of it. There were, to date, 3 films in the series. There's this one, then there's Hostel 2, and then there's Hostel 3, which takes place in Las Vegas. Hostel 2 had girls. So it's almost the same type of film, only with girls. This one is with 2 guys. But yes, Hostel is highly extreme, so again, if you're not into these type of movies, don't watch it. And then there's Saw, which I believe went to about 6 or 7 or 8 films, the latest being Jigsaw. This is the first one here with Carrie Elwes, and it's a group of people, and they're abducted, and then they wake up in this room, and they're tied up, and then this doll, which is on a TV, appears, and it's almost like a game, and they have only so much time to get out of the trap, or if they don't get out of the trap, all of a sudden they're killed in these most violent and very gory ways. And what I like about the series is that as it went along, it got even more gorier, and even more gorier as it goes along. It gets even worse, and then by the time you get to the 6th or 7th film, the gore factor goes up to the highest extreme. So yeah, I would definitely recommend seeing Saw as well. Only if you're, again, the type of person that can handle these type of movies. And finally, my final one for this series will be I Spit on Your Grave, which is about a girl. She goes to an isolated cabin. She's a writer. She goes to a cabin. She meets some of the locals, and the locals, I guess, take a little bit too much of a liking to her, and they abduct her and rape her, and then they leave her for dead, and then she manages to survive, and then she comes after them for revenge for the rape. So, yes, it says, if you can handle it, see it, and it will give new meaning to the term hedge clipping. And I had a friend of mine that actually watched this movie, and to this date, he will not look at hedge clippers the same way again after seeing this one. But yeah, I would prefer the original, because this was actually a remake as well of a 1978 movie starring Camille Keaton, who actually is a friend of mine on Facebook. And I don't know the actress that's playing in this one, but This remake, though, it's reasonable for the budget that they used to make this movie. But yeah, I would definitely say it's one to watch for sure. So that's my look at extreme cinema. That's a little bit of the extreme films, and again, I strongly recommend that if you can't handle these type of movies, or you're not the type of audience that these films are geared towards, I would definitely say don't watch them. But if you like that type of movie, I would say there's no harm in it at all. Like, it's just a film. You have to look at it and keep it in mind that it's just a movie, because that's what it's all about. It's just a film. It's just something to watch. You can shut it off after so long. But anyway, that was my look at extreme films. So I want to thank you again for listening to this. I hope you like this video. So please send those likes in, and definitely subscribe, because we need all the subscribers we can get. And leave the comments. I know you can get some good comments and you can get some not so good comments, and just try to be nice. Remember, I'm still just learning at this thing. So until next time, this is Paul Westbrook for Cinema Picks of the Week, saying good night, and I'll be seeing you at the movies. Good night.